Welcome to Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and the Trauma Talk series, where together we'll navigate the depths of the impact trauma has on our lives and collective well-being, shining a light on resilience, healing, and the transformative power of doing the inner work. I'm your host, Julie Lewin. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin. And today I have a very special woman, Shirley Buck, who is joining me from the US. And when we met before the podcast, we said, oh, I found a new friend. So I hope you feel that energy while you're listening to the podcast today. And it's, as we always are, it's a chat format. So we don't know where this is going to lead, but we are going to be talking about trauma and the inner journey. But first of all, let me introduce you properly. So Shirley is the author of an internationally best-selling book, Sweet Freedom Whispered in My Ear. I can't wait to hear a bit more about that, Shirley. She's a dedicated mindset transformation coach, specializing in trauma and abuse recovery. And she's drawing from her own remarkable journey of overcoming years of severe abuse and trauma. I am so sorry to hear that you've had that, Shirley, but I know that you have come through and you're doing really great now. As an energy healer, Shirley understands the intricate connection between the mind, body, and spirit. And that's why we became firm friends, because this is where I kind of vibe as well. And her personal healing journey has deepened this understanding of the transformative power of energy work and its ability to facilitate profound emotional and physical healing, which has been my journey as well. So we're connecting on so many areas here, Shirley. And
Absolutely.
through your intuitive and nurturing approach, and you know what? I can feel that in the cadence of your voice.
Oh, thank
Shirley
you.
she guides individuals towards releasing deep-seated trauma, restoring balance, and reclaiming their sense of self-worth. And it's the foundation of the work that I do as well. So I think we're going to have a really awesome chat. Your mission is to inspire and guide others on their path to recovery, resilience, and personal transformation. And you have a 90-day transformation course. That's amazing. We'll mention that at the end. But why don't we get into our chat? Just tell me a little bit about who you are, and then we'll start having our conversation.
Okay, well, my name's Shirley Buck. I am a mother. I'm a grandmother. Those are two of my most favorite things that I do in the world. I didn't always have the great, wonderful life that I do now.
Mm.
I was a child of deaf parents and went through some pretty severe abuse and trauma most of my childhood life,
Wow.
actually all of my childhood life, really. And at the age of like 23 is when I finally, when I had, when I was feeling safe and everything was okay, it's when I had a total nervous breakdown. I thought I was going to lose my mind. I was terrified. I couldn't cope. And that's when everything came to a head. And I decided to dive into changing my mindset transformation.
I'm just going to pause you there, because you said something, Shirley, that is like the key. You said, I decided. And guys, if you get nothing else out of this podcast, that is gold. I decided. And that's going to be the key to healing for anyone. Make a decision. Yeah.
I agree. In fact, I dedicate a whole week in my course to taking ownership. So
Yeah.
it's the most powerful thing you can do. I
Yeah.
decided taking ownership, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
You have to take responsibility for your own life.
You do. You do.
First step.
And that's that's kind of the whole overarching theme of our podcast is that inner journey. What do you decide for you? Yes, we need help from outside every now and then, but 90% of that journey is what we do inside and in our
Absolutely.
mind and what decisions we make. Yeah, we're so on the same page.
Yes, yes. And you can be very healthy physically. You can exercise and be in tip-top shape physically, but if your mind's not in the right place and your spirit's not in the right place, you're still off balance. You're still not going to be happy. So it is a combination of mind, spirit, and body for sure.
All three, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I just feel like we need to take a breath because that is at the crux of what I believe as well. And, you know, I don't know about you, Shirley, but we can make a decision even when we feel like we haven't got any choice. Not making a choice is still a decision.
Absolutely.
And if that's the only thing that I get to share, that not making a choice is a decision as well,
That's
then
right.
I
That
feel
that
like
is very true.
I've done like that's my mission is for people to start making conscious decisions for their own well-being. And you might feel like you've got two really bad choices, but you still can make a choice. And the thing that with the work that I do, I say if you feel like you're caught between a rock and a hard place, you still have a choice. And one of the things that I teach my students is you just need to create some space around you so that you feel like there's movement and you can see that there are other choices, and that's really key, isn't it? To feel like
It
you've
is
got that
key. And it's
space.
funny how space is such a great word because your body needs space. It's funny because I bought an inversion table and I just started
Oh,
therapy where you hang
yeah,
upside down. And
yeah,
I'm creating space in between my vertebrae to
yeah,
heal. And
yeah.
it's remarkable how much like my lower back pain is pretty much gone, but it's it's that space. Sometimes you need space to heal. And
Mhm.
like you said, when you are pressed up against a corner, you've got to step away a little bit.
Yeah.
And even, I have the tools to use my mindset to think a different way. And I've trained my mind so well to when there is contrast or there is something that comes up that I can look at it a different way. Now, that doesn't mean I'm exempt and I'm 100% happy and I'm always at this great top of the day, wonderful, you know, happy, perfect world. But I get down once in a while and but when you learn to appreciate the contrast too, because that makes
Mm.
you yearn for something more. If our lives were always perfect and always great, we wouldn't yearn
It
for something more, and therefore we wouldn't be able to create something different. And we do
exactly.
create our own world. We do create our own
Mm,
reality.
yeah. And, you said a really, really awesome word there, contrast. If we didn't have contrast, or in Australia we say contrast, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't know where to go next.
Right.
And when when my clients say to me, Julie, I feel like I'm going two steps forward, one step back, I'll say to them, so what did you do? And they said, oh, I was feeling good. So I stopped doing those things that you asked me to do because I was feeling good. And I said, and what did you notice? And they said, well, I went backwards. And I said, that is a really awesome thing. Really, I'm so proud of you for doing that, because now you know that those
Right.
things that you are doing on a daily basis that might take 5 minutes are actually having an impact, and when you don't
Right.
do it, this is what happens, and if you don't have that contrast, you won't ever
You won't
know
know that. Right.
that what you're
It's just
doing
like
is
if
actually
you live in a place
powerful.
that's sunny all the time, you just learn to just take it for granted that it's sunny. You don't even appreciate it until it
Yeah,
rains, you know?
that's it.
And, it's funny you said too, like, that might take, like, 5 minutes. I always tell people my course is a simple process. It's a very simple process. It's not always easy, but it's a very simple process
Yeah.
because it's not always easy to get up and do those things, but it is a simple thing to do. And if you can learn to get in the habit of doing that, it
Mm.
changes your world. You will see evidence of your life changing, opportunities appearing,
Yeah,
things just start, and it's proven scientifically,
yeah,
but not too many people shout it out loud, but it is amazing. I know it sounds like a cliche, change your mind, change your life, but it is real. Change your
yeah.
mind, you will change your life.
Correct.
You know?
Because, and this is what I say, your outer world reflects your inner world.
Mhm.
Your outer world does not inform your inner world informs your
Mm,
outer world. And if you want your outer world to change, you start with the inner world. And
right,
people may say, well, I don't know how to do that. So here's what I think. You need to find someone that you resonate with. It's not like one person is better than another. It's who do you resonate with
who are you aligning with, vibrating with?
to
Yes.
to be your guide. We all need a guide along our journey. There's going to be people that are ahead of you, and there's going to be people that are behind you. And so what you're looking for is to choose a guide that has walked the journey before you, and then you'll have an opportunity to be a guide for the person who walks the journey behind you. And that's
Absolutely.
how we get on in the world. And
Yes.
it's not that that person over there is better or that person there is worse. It's finding someone who you resonate with at
Right.
a at a at a core level. It's not just, oh, they look nice. It's what are they
Right.
saying? What
Exactly.
what do you feel when you even look at them? And I think we had this conversation that when people come to your website, they see your photo and they feel a vibration from your photo. Did you tell me that?
I don't know that we talked
Oh,
about that.
maybe that was someone else.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
But
maybe that was someone else I spoke with.
yeah, and then just looking at something like, for example, after the pandemic here, I was driving back into the city. I live in Chicago, and driving into the city, there was so much garbage on the highway. And I've always taken pride in, oh my God, Chicago is such a clean, beautiful city. It's always clean. It's amazing. It's a huge city, but it's always clean. So I was driving in, every day that I was driving, I was focused on that garbage and I was feeling frustrated and I was kind of angry and like, oh, why is that garbage? Why is there so much garbage? And then I was like, wait a minute. One of the things I teach is pay attention to your emotional scale. My
Yeah,
emotional scale was off. I was not feeling good. Therefore, I'm like, what am I thinking? I'm focusing on the garbage. Why am I focusing on the garbage when I can be looking up at the skyline and the sky and the trees and look at the beauty instead of the garbage? So that's like a simple like parable. Like, why do we focus on the garbage when there's so much beauty in the world? So changing that thought process is really huge as well, because it's how we perceive things and how
yeah,
things really are. If you truly believe the world is a horrible place and it's terrible, then you're obviously
that's
not seeing all the beautiful people that do so much good and all the beautiful things in the world that
mhm,
we're abundant with. Like there's so much
yeah,
abundance of trees, flowers, wildlife, and there's just so much beauty And there's, unfortunately, when you turn on the TV and the news and all that, it doesn't bombard you with beauty. It bombards you with, the garbage of the world. So, um, how you perceive and how you choose to look at things and what you choose to tune into is very important.
So you said that you made a decision at 23.
Yes.
What was that decision?
That decision is, I was engaged to a great guy, and here I was feeling safe and starting a journey, and being a wife and possibly a mother one day. And here I was falling apart, terrified. And I was telling him, "You better run because I'm in no condition to be, your partner in life." He
Mm,
didn't run, thank God. I mean, we're not married, but we're still very good friends to this day. But we did get married and we did have children, but I decided I did want to have children. I did want to have a family and participate in life. And I was terrified of becoming my mother, and I didn't want to be
mm,
her because she was very abusive.
mm,
So I had to choose, like, I don't want to be this person who's like, I went through years of depression, anxiety. I had eating disorders. I was everywhere from 80 to 200 pounds on the scale. I, got into drugs and alcohol, anything to drown the things that were happening. And as it all came to a head, I was either going to end it because I couldn't go on like that. I couldn't go on feeling like I was going to be out of my mind the rest of my life,
mm.
or I had to fix it. And I didn't want to go to traditional therapy or meds. And I'm not saying it's wrong for everybody, but what I'm saying is, for me, I felt like I'm going to go there and I'm going to focus more on the problems and the whys, and the focus on the problem, focus on the problem. And probably it's going to stir up all this depression. And then they're going to give me meds to, take to, to subdue the depression while I'm
Yeah,
dealing with the
yeah.
problems. And I didn't want to do that. I found a way. I got my hands on every self-help book that had to
Mhm,
do with positive thinking, changing your mindset, manifestation, laws of attraction. And I studied this stuff for now over 30 years.
mhm.
And um I learned that you can train your mind to think a different way, and I learned that we can choose our thoughts, and that's not as easy as it sounds, but it
No.
is so true. And it actually, one of the things I like to say is, with people who have things in their past that they can't stop thinking of, is especially if your abusers are out of your life and they're not there anymore, and the past doesn't exist
Mm.
unless you give it thought.
Yeah,
Unless
right.
you give it thought, it does not exist. It's not there anymore. So you don't want to keep giving your abusers, or anyone who's hurt you or let you down, that power anymore. They're gone. It's in the past. It doesn't exist anymore. Why are you bringing it into your present? The
So what
only way
about
it exists is if you give it thought.
what about triggers? What about when somebody or something happens and it kind of mirrors a memory that has been locked away, you haven't been thinking about it, and then it opens this Pandora's box and you go, "Whoa, what just
Yeah,
happened?"
that that
What
has
are your
happened to me.
thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
And it does happen. There,
Yeah,
I'm always gonna have triggers because you can't
yeah.
go through, most of your, all of your childhood and all of your teenage years of, all this trauma and abuse, and just turn it off without any
Mm,
triggers. I don't choose to focus on it. I choose to be like, "Wow, that was a long time ago. Wow, I can't, I got through that," and I have compassion for myself, and I
okay.
also tell myself I'm proud of myself. Like, you were able to do this, and it's okay to love yourself and be proud of yourself. That's not arrogance. That's just giving yourself love and recognition.
Mm,
And when those triggers do come up, I do have the tools. Like, I will go meditate, I will go and journal, and I will concentrate on the things that I'm grateful for. And sometimes it takes a week or something for me to come out of that funk. Like it's not always a miracle cure, but I have the tools now,
Yeah.
and those tools bring me out of it. Those
Yeah.
tools bring me back to, oh wow, like I love the life I created. I love this life. Why am I feeling this way? And sometimes you can get down on yourself, like, why am I feeling this way? But again, there's the contrast.
Yeah.
Appreciate the contrast. If you let it flow through you and do the things you need to come out of it instead of fighting it, you'll come through it a lot easier, because when you fight it, that's when you have the struggle of coming out of it,
Yeah.
you know?
So I say this thing, and this is something that I learned for myself during a really intense period of my life. What I just and I had a mentor that criticized me for my medical intuition ability and my psychic ability, and made that a bad thing. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to avoid all phenomenon. And the more I avoided it, the more phenomenon I experienced.
Yeah, I
And I
know.
went, right, that which I avoid is magnified and it chases me.
Right.
And then there were really amazing things, and I wanted those experiences. So I'm
Chasing it.
seeking those experiences, and it happens in meditation, it happens in all different areas where I'm seeking, "Oh, I just wanna hold on to that," and it's elusive, like, it's just that far away, and so I came to this conclusion, and I don't know if other people have, that which I seek is elusive, that which I avoid chases me or is magnified. And so I found that for me personally, if I could find that middle line, that middle path where I'm not seeking or avoiding, then that's where I I don't have such highs and I don't have such lows, but I still do have the contrast. It's just not magnified and
That's
like
the sweet spot.
exhausting.
That's what's called the
Yeah, it's
sweet
the
spot.
sweet spot.
Yeah, the sweet
And
spot
so
that leads you to the vortex where everything
yeah,
you want is, right. So, walking that middle line is good, I think, and because the same thing, when I really want something to happen and I'm just trying so hard, it just keeps going further away,
yeah,
you know? And then when I'm finally like, okay, I've had enough, and start focusing on different things, then all of a sudden it just starts trickling in. It starts working. It starts, but and that's the thing. If you focus on lack, you get more lack. Whatever you focus on, you get more of. So if you're focusing on lack, you're getting more of lack. You're
yeah,
focusing on gratitude, on wonderful, you know, your abundance, you're focusing on wonderful things, you get more of that. And but there is contrast, and contrast is here for a reason. So,
yeah.
you know, it's being easy with ourselves too. And I can
That's
get
it.
hard on myself, you know,
Yeah,
because I feel like, well, I should have this down and I should be this master of it, you know, and but we're always learning, and we have to have
yeah,
compassion for ourselves, you know,
yeah,
just be easy on ourselves, you know.
yeah.
It's
And I
'cause we're
spoke
we're
with Dr.
easy. We're so easy with other people. We wanna be accepting and tell them, "No, everything's okay. You're great. You're a great person. Just be patient. Hang in there." But we don't do that for ourselves, you know? We
Exactly.
don't we're
Yeah,
always, like, hard on ourselves. Self-love
yeah,
is huge, you know?
yeah, it is.
Very, very important.
Last year I spoke with Dr. Vishal Rao, and those episodes are on the podcast. And he said to me in his research or experience that the people who have low expectations and high acceptance heal the best and have the
Low
best health.
expectation, low
So it's
expectations, yeah.
yeah, low expectations and high acceptance. And it's not that you don't have goals and dreams and that sort of thing, but it's low expectations of your dreams manifesting the way that you want them to. Yeah. It's
Yes,
about
it is.
having acceptance of
How
how
it
that
gets.
comes. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
universe has a million ways to bring you what you want, a million
Yeah.
ways, but we get so dead set on this is what I'm doing. This is where I want to have my success. This is where I want to make this happen. This is how I want to buy my dream house. This is, and you get so caught up in how the universe is like, here's an opportunity, here's a pathway, and you're just too focused on how I'm going to make this work, that you, and like you said, that high acceptance, being in the receptive mode, being open to receiving
Yeah.
in any way that it comes to you, being easy,
Yeah.
and like you being in that sweet spot.
Yeah. And you're using the word easy, and Vishal's using the word high acceptance.
Right,
But I
right.
feel like it's a
The same
similar
thing.
thing. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and it is. It's like being in the receptive mode, high acceptance. You're open. You're open to
Yeah.
receive in any
Yeah.
form, in any way that it comes
Yeah.
to you. Yeah, we all get tripped up
And
with that. Otherwise, we'd all be millionaires, right? If we knew how to just manifest what we want, we'd all be, there is a sweet
yeah.
spot, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes paying attention to your emotional scale, it takes paying attention to your thought process. It's just being aware,
Yeah.
is learning to
Yeah.
be
And
aware and guiding your thoughts.
that's it. And self-reflection, I think, is often underestimated. The power of self-reflection, self-understanding, it's probably key for how you perceive the world. And what really fascinates me is how two people can witness the same experience, but one has a positive experience and the other one has a negative experience
Absolutely.
or a challenging experience. And that fascinates me.
Yeah,
And
it's that
from
power of
a
perception.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to come back to your journey. So you made a decision that you were going to do the inner work, and then what happened when you
Well,
made a
I kind of
decision? Because there's a
I
big
had to kind of understand the whys. So I kind of understood that, okay, my mother was an abusive alcoholic. She was deaf, so I was her caregiver. My mom and dad were divorced when I was 5. I interpreted their divorce in the lawyer's office, and at 5 years old, that's a big responsibility. I
yeah.
went on to live with my mother, who became an alcoholic by the time I was 8. She had gotten remarried. The guy talked her into selling her house that my dad left us, and he took off with the money. We never seen him
Mm,
again. But um, so we ended up in this terrible roach infested apartment. No money. We're on, she's on Social Security, food stamps. She started selling our food stamps to get alcohol. She became very angry, and
mm,
she would take that out on me. It's your fault. If I didn't have you, I could be married. If I didn't have you, and I only had you to save our marriage. Like, so I was always I was this burden, but I
mm,
wanted to help her so bad that I just kept
yeah.
trying. And by the time I was 13, she committed suicide, and she
Oh,
tried to take my life as well.
wow.
And so I had to learn to get over like the guilt that I failed to take care of her.
Mhm.
I
Mm,
had to learn I was a child. I
yeah.
had to really look back and learn about alcoholism and how
Mm,
it overtakes you. And I had to heal. I had to take the time
yeah.
to heal, but I also had to take the time to remember to be childlike and playful. And I think it's very important in our lives as adults to continue to play, to learn how to be
Yes.
childlike, not just
Yeah.
get in that rut where we go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, go to work, eat dinner, pay bills, like,
Mhm.
and watch the news and go, "Oh my God, the world's terrible." Like, yeah, and there's no joy. There's no
Yeah.
joy.
Yeah. And
Being
I'm really
child
glad that you said joy rather than happiness,
Right,
because
right.
happiness is fleeting,
It's
but
it's a different
joy,
thing. Right.
it is a different thing. And I look for awe and wonder.
Yes.
To me, children have this, like, they have this capacity for awe and wonder if we let them.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's what I've brought forward into my adult life, is the awe and wonder.
Yes.
And, you know, look, I think that most people have shitty things happen to them through their
Absolutely.
childhood and into adulthood. And some, you look at their journey and you go, "Whoa, I'm so glad I didn't have to do that." But the thing is, they will look at your journey and they go, "Oh my god, I am so glad I didn't have your journey." So,
Exactly. There's not one
yeah,
that's worse or better or yeah.
that's
It's
right.
karma's trying yes.
And we all have hard, challenging times
Right.
that we need to be able to navigate. And I think that I call it comparisonitis. When we compare ourselves to another person, that's actually our inner world that is not being kind to us.
Right.
If we're looking out and we go, I want to know what that person's done to overcome, that's a completely different, I'm going to use the word frequency,
Right.
to that person's lucky and I'm not.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
actually had a client who said, at the end of our 90 days, she was like, "I'm so glad I did this. So glad. I almost didn't come to you because I read your book and I thought, oh my God, she went through so much trauma. She's going to look at me like, what are you upset about?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no, God, no, I don't look at people that way. I feel like every challenge that anybody experiences is their reality. That's their challenge. It's not less or more than mine. It's
Yeah.
just is and and to learn the tools to overcome any challenges, like not
Exactly.
everybody I work with has been through trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
Also I work with people who just like I'm stuck. I don't feel happy. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
So, and they don't even know why. So, yeah, and you're right. What did you call it? Compare, what did you call it?
Comparisonitis.
Yes, yes. Yes, that's pretty good because that is a thing and it's not good.
Yeah.
And it even boils down to like, oh, that person has that car and I only have this car. Like if you're constantly doing that, you're not gonna ever be happy because you're always gonna be wanting what everybody else has. And
Ex
then those new things can't come to you because you're blocking it with your, you know, focus on lack. So
And that's
it
where, and you're not experiencing the awe and wonder.
Right. Oh yeah, the awe and wonder. Oh, I every time I see geese, I think to myself, I see geese every single day. I live right outside of Chicago now. I was born and raised in Chicago, but I moved here about 7 years ago, and I have wildlife and I have trails in the woods, and I see geese every day. Why?
And
I'm always
what
like,
does that mean
oh,
for
there's
you?
geese. I, just I just feel like I get excited when I see geese, and I don't know why. I see them every day. But the last time I went for a walk, they had little baby goslings, and oh no, I was ecstatic. Not only was I like excited, I was ecstatic. I see deer all the time, and
Yeah.
I still like, look, there's deer. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Yeah, so we see them all the time." And I'm like, "No, but how cool is that?" Like, I
Yeah.
still love it. I drove
So
up and
that's
down toward
the
I
childlike innocence.
Yes, yes, and when you lose that, that to me is very sad. That to me
Mm,
is very sad when people don't have a childlike joy. Like if you lose that completely when you
mm,
become an adult, when you become too serious and you become too angry and too it's very sad to me because
mm.
there is so much beauty and joy and I mean, I have over 700 photos of flowers. I went through a year when my grandson was born where he and I would just go out and take these photographs and I would go to art shows and sell them. I would put them on ceramic and all this, it was just a fun thing I did that just added beauty to our lives and taught my grandson at the same time to appreciate
Yeah,
beauty. I mean, he's
yeah,
5. We walked out in the backyard and he goes, "Hear that woodpecker, Ma?" They call me Ma instead of grandma. And they call her my daughter Mama. And I'm like, "Yes, but I'm just so glad that you can hear it and zone it out and pick it out." Like it made me so
yeah,
excited.
yeah,
Um so yeah, I love that. And my daughter's so good at letting them be kids, roll around in the mud and just play and she's just I mean, I thought I was good at it, but she takes it to a whole nother level of just it's wonderful to watch her be this incredible mother.
So what I'm hearing, Shirley, is you had that crisis when you were 23.
Mhm.
You made a decision. You ended up getting married and you had 1 or more babies?
I had 2.
2 babies. And was the decision that you were going to remember the playfulness or the innocence of the child and ensure that your children had a different experience
Oh, that was
than you
probably the
had?
most important thing to me. I was
Yeah,
mama bear.
yeah,
Even their father couldn't discipline them. I disciplined them, and I made sure, that the manners and all that. But I also played with them,
yeah,
and I didn't have a childhood. I didn't have
yeah,
toys. I remember my best friend coming over and being like, "Well, where's your Barbies? Where's your dolls?" I don't have those. I have a stereo. Want to dance? That's kind of what I
mhm,
did. But I was this child to be, my parents depended on me to
yes.
do,
So you were
things.
you basically started adulting when you came out of the womb.
Yeah, maybe that's why I appreciate being a child so much. you know, but
Yeah,
I still love Disney movies. I remember my daughter coming home as a teenager and I was watching Tangled and she's like, "Are you watching cartoons? Are you watching a Disney movie?" I said, "Yeah." She was like, "Okay." But I still love Disney movies. I love childlike things. I'm an adult. I take care of my responsibilities. I do what I need to do,
yeah.
and I take care of the people I love, but I'm still a
But you
child.
take care of you too. And I
Absolutely.
think if anyone listening to this podcast isn't experiencing awe and wonder or joy or like when you watch a Disney cartoon movie, it's like the weight of the world falls away.
Oh, yeah, it really
And
does.
when the weight of the world falls away, our nervous system goes back into homeostasis and it knows how to regulate itself in homeostasis. But when we're stressed from the pressure of the world, it can't do its job.
Absolutely.
And so when
Yeah,
you
and
notice,
that's why we have to sleep to turn things off, but it's not
mm,
enough just to sleep because a lot of times people aren't even getting enough sleep for one,
exactly,
and they wake up and their mind's racing and they go to bed with bad thoughts in their head, so they're dreaming bad and like it's but but sleeping is a way of turning off because our bodies
mm,
do need it, it's a nature's way of telling us stop, slow
reset.
down, yeah,
Yeah,
reset.
yeah,
So when we learn how to do that in other playful ways and joyful ways, you're right. Our body does start to heal. And that's where energy work comes in because
yeah,
people get so relaxed and in this state where they're allowing healing to take place. And that's when their energy shifts and
Mm.
they're always amazed, but it's like your body wants to heal automatically.
Yeah.
It really does if you just
Yeah.
allow it. Step back and allow it to heal.
So what are some of the favorite things that you did in your 20s and 30s to navigate that phase of your life
In my
so that the
20s and
trauma of your
30s,
first 20 odd years, like, how did you counterbalance that? Like, what things did
by
you
the
do?
time I was by the time I was 25, I had my son. So those 2 years I was basically working on being positive, thinking well, and so I was working very hard on that. And it was funny because people were starting to say to me like, "Wow, like what's going on with you? Your life seems to be wonderful." And it
Mm,
was kind of weird. And then I was like, I don't know. I was really just learning the new steps. And then my son came along and wow, I felt this unconditional love,
mm,
this fierce protection. And then at the same time, it made me sad because I was like, why didn't my mother feel that? What was
mm,
lacking? And then I had to go back and
mm.
tell myself, not only was she deaf, she was a deaf child that was hidden in the bedroom when people came over because they were embarrassed of her. She had a
Wow.
lot of issues, and she didn't know
Yeah,
how to get help being deaf. And it was just, and a child can't help an adult in that situation. But I then started to be like, you know, playing with my son and learning, wow, this is wonderful. This is so much fun. Like, so parenting for me, I remember so many people, like I'd go to those focus groups. I used to do a lot of
yeah,
those. And parents would always be like, it's so hard. And they don't ever listen. They're always talking back. They're like, and I used to feel like the oddball because I'd be like, oh my God, I love being a parent. Oh my God, I have so much fun with my kids. Oh, yeah, like, yeah, they might make a mess, but I look at that mess again, perception. I look at that mess like, oh my God, if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have that mess. I would much rather have that mess and have them than not have a mess.
yeah.
I just always looked at things differently. And it makes a big difference. And my children and I
That's
are to this day are so close. We still play
that's
together.
key. Yeah,
It
that
is
you look
key.
at things differently, and that's the key, is
It is key.
if your world is not how you want it to be, how can you look at it differently?
Right. That's that
And
mindset. Yep.
it is that mindset. And, when our kids were 24 and 26, they were still living at home. And I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but I said to my husband, "It's kinda our turn now." I said, "If we don't leave, they're not going to, you know, have their own lives and their own families, and they're not going to learn what we learned." My husband was 16 and a half. I was 19 when we left home.
Wow.
And when we left home, we went a long way away from our families because we were both born in the country. And
Wow.
I went like 1,000 miles from my family. And I think Frank went like, I don't know, a couple of 100 mile. But, he didn't have a car and he was in the big city. I went to the big city and kids were 24 and 26. And I said, "Look, if we get an opportunity to live somewhere else, are you up for it?" And he said,
Wow.
"Oh, yeah, I think so." And my best friend from when I was 20 found me on Facebook in 2008. I was so thrilled. And she lived near where I now live. And we started coming out to visit her on the other side of the mountains. And I said to Frank one day, when we come up over the mountain and onto the downs, my body drops and I feel like I've come home. I said, "Would you consider moving out here if we can?" And he said, "Okay." So we were looking at a business, and when we kind of got into it, I said, I don't want to move out here and become a waitress. Not that waitressing, there's anything bad about
Right.
it,
No.
but I'm not good talking to people that are strangers.
Right.
Frank does it all day, every day. That's his thing. But he would have been back in the kitchen cooking the food.
Right.
And I said, Frank, this is not what I want for my next stage of life.
Right.
And luckily, somehow I'd lucked on getting a virtual assistant's job. So I said to Frank, we can live anywhere. So we came, and all the dominoes all clicked into place. We got this house. We rented it off my friend's boss for like ridiculous cheap money. And I said to Frank, you know what? This is the last time. The next time I move, it will be in our own house.
Right.
And, you know, 3 years came,
Well,
5 years
you
came.
manifested that.
Yeah, we said, we'll come for 2 years and see if we like it. Well, we haven't left. That was 12 and a half years ago.
Well, that's
No,
amazing.
14 and a half years ago. But in 2020, my mum died. About a month later, the lady who owns the house said, I want to sell, but I'll give you first option because I promised that I would. I said, I have an inheritance coming. Can you wait until then?
Wow.
She said, sure. And so we bought the house and I didn't even have to move.
Oh, see how you manifested that? You weren't
I
really
did.
chasing it. You were like, well, if we get the opportunity, would you be open to it? Yeah. You kind of eased your way. You were in that sweet spot. You weren't
Yeah,
going, oh my God, I have to move. I have to move. I have to move. Because then most of the time there's going to be so many blocks to that, but you were just like, oh, then your friend found you and like all this alignment started
yeah,
happening. And
that's it.
and but you created that, and that's what people need to
Yeah,
understand is you can create your own life. You can create the life you desire. You just have to learn how to do it, you know?
yeah. And it's about being disciplined, about watching your thoughts. It's about, I have this thing that I call the amnesia line. I should draw it and then we'll wrap up because we can talk forever.
I know we
Um,
can.
um, I'm just
I
going
wish
to
you were my
quickly
neighbor and
draw it.
we could have coffee together in the mornings. That's
I
what I would.
know, I know, I agree. Oh my goodness. Do you know what? I don't have a pen. Frank's been down here. I can't even draw it. But if you
Oh,
imagine this curvy line like that, we
okay.
have the mountains and the valleys. And we have the mount. So this is life, right?
Right.
Somewhere along that is a line. When we go below that line, I call it the amnesia line, we forget all the tools, the resources, our knowledge of how to live the life that we want to live. We're below the line and we just don't know what's going on. It's a kind of amnesia. And this came to me one day and I thought, what brings me below the line? And one of the things is listening to people complaining and getting in the bucket with them. And that can bring you down below the line faster than you can say Jack Rabbit because
Absolutely.
your frequency is changing and everything is
Yeah, that's the thing.
frequency.
You can't pull people up. You have to go down to their level. It's not until they want to come up here that you can you can help them, inspire them. I like to use the word inspire rather than help.
Inspire. Yes.
Right. Because otherwise you're constantly getting pulled down to the valley.
Yeah.
They're not coming up here. And it's the same thing with our inner being. When we get frustrated or angry, our inner being does not go with us. Our inner being stays focused on what we desire, what we want, the happiness, the good, our inner being stays good and pure. It
Mm.
doesn't go with us. It says, "Come back to me. Come back to your inner.
Yeah,
Come back to me. Stop going out there. Come back to me because I'm not going there with you." Like you said, you're not getting in
yeah,
the bucket with them. If you
yeah,
get in the bucket
yeah,
with them, you're in that valley. And it's the same thing with
yeah,
our inner being. It says, "Come back to me. Come back to where
yeah,
you're good. You're a source. You're good. You're an
yeah,
extension of source. I'm not going to go there with you. Come back in here
yeah,
with me." So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's really important.
Yeah, and what I say to people is when you're above the line and you know what all your tools are, and you could have got them from watching a movie, reading a book, having a therapist, talking to a friend, like your resources are a bag of tools that help you stay in the middle zone, not avoiding, not seeking. They help you keep balance. But when you go below the line, you forget those tools and you
Right,
feel like you're lost and you're floundering. So I suggest when you're above the line, write it on a card. Write it on a little piece of paper about that big. Put one in your wallet. Put one on the mirror in the bathroom or by the light switch so that you can see it, and then when you're below the line and you're lost, you look at that and you go, "Oh, I remember if I take my phone and go outside and take photos of flowers, that
right,
helps me come back up above the line. I'll
right,
go and do that." Or, "That's right, if I go to a movie by myself, I get involved in the movie and I forget what else is going on, and that brings me back up above the line." Or
right.
I bring a friend who will just listen and not try to fix
Excuse
me.
me.
So there's all these little things that you can do. Write
Yeah,
them on a list.
absolutely.
Write them on a
I
list and
agree,
use your
yes.
list. Yeah.
That's a great idea. Toe the line. Toe the line. Yes.
Oh, we
I
could
love
talk forever,
you.
but why don't you share your last words of wisdom, and then we'll let people know how they can find you.
I just want everyone to know that no matter what you've been through, no matter where you are today, if you're not happy, you can be. You can find that
Yeah.
joy, and the work isn't that hard. It's a simple process. It
Mm.
just isn't easy all the time because, we're like, "Can we really do this?" And but you can,
Yeah.
and the payoff is, I mean, the cost is being happy, the payoff is being happy. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
And do something, sing, dance, do something childlike, anything. Anything that brings you joy. If you've always wanted to take a pottery class, do it.
Yeah.
Sign up for it now. Go do it. Just take yourself out of the norm because I think Frank Zappa said it. Without deviating from the norm, progress is not possible. So, you got to
Wow.
kind of get out of the norm and do something different if you want your life to be different.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing with getting out of the norm is you're going to learn things that you need for your path
Right.
that you didn't know that you need, but because you were courageous and made a choice to do something um, out of the
Different.
norm,
Yes.
different, that you
Yeah.
weren't brilliant at and you had to learn, it actually does something within you that brings that joy and challenge, but you get the euphoria of overcoming a challenge of, "I did that. I
Yeah.
didn't think I could, but I did." It's the wildest experience, and I love
It
it.
really is.
And,
Yeah.
I was watching a video just last night, of a girl in Canada who grows flowers, and she does a YouTube video, and she grew 6,000 daffodils, and she wanted to create a vase of like hundreds of daffodils, and she wanted them all to stand up straight. But that it wasn't going to happen. It had rained the night before. They were heavier than she anticipated. And I could see her go through the valley of discouragement. Like she really she had to change tack. She had to accept that it wasn't going to look like what she had in her mind, but she kept going and she didn't give up. And
Yeah.
I could feel her wanting to give up, and my heart was going out, and she just pivoted and she went, okay, if I can't have that, I'll have this. And she just kept going. And the joy on her face when she finished was like she'd climbed Mount Everest
Wow.
and she made it, and she put the flag in the top because she didn't give up. And
That's right.
that's the thing, is if be open to pivoting. That's my last words
And
of
don't
wisdom.
give
Be
up.
open to
Be open to
pivoting.
pivoting and don't give up.
Yeah, and keep going and keep, um, you know, what would
Planting.
happen if I do this? What would happen if I do that? And
Right.
use your hands, because it does something in your brain that releases the tension of the contraction.
Yep. I still sign to stay in, you know,
Ah,
in rhythm with signing. So I'll sign a song or something. I try to, because I'm fluent in sign language. It was my pretty much my first
your first
language. So
language. Yeah,
yeah. So I try to keep it fluid. 'Cause I don't have
yeah.
anyone to talk
Shirley,
to much anymore.
it has been such a pleasure to have this chat, and I know
Oh, it
that
was a
we
pleasure for
will
me as
connect
well.
over and over. And
Absolutely.
so how can people find you?
ShirleyBuck.com is my website.
Mhm.
Red Leaf Alternative Healing is the name of my coaching business, but I made it easy for people to find me. It's, ShirleyBuck.com. My book is titled Sweet Freedom Whispered in My Ear, and my author name is S.A. Buck.
Yeah.
So that's, pretty much it. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you look up Shirley Buck, you probably find me.
We'll have the links in all the platforms, so
Oh,
you'll be able
perfect.
to find Shirley. And yeah, I think that life is what we make it, not
It
what people
is.
make of it for us.
Right.
And
Take
so
that
I hope,
ownership.
yeah, yeah. I hope that you've enjoyed this
Oh, I
episode,
did
and
immensely.
thank you. And thank you for your time, um
Well,
and
thank you for
everyone
having me.
listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this insightful episode of Let's Chat with Julie Lewin and our special guest, Shirley Buck. Wow, what an adventure we had with Shirley. We talked about the amnesia line. We talked about how she made it through such a traumatic and abusive childhood and made a decision that she was going to have a better life. And we talked about the things that she did to create that better life and the consequences of holding on to your thoughts in a way that isn't allowing you to experience joy and wonder. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you found something valuable for your own life and inner journey in what was shared. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, follow, and share wherever you listen from so it can get to the people who need it most. Also, your insights shape the direction of our podcast. So please let us know if there is someone that you would like us to have a chat with or a topic that you would like us to talk about. Thank you again for listening. And remember, the journey of self-discovery and growth doesn't just happen on the airwaves. It's a day-to-day thing in our lives. So until next time, may you find courage, peace, and magic on your unique path. Bye.